We saw a few years ago that the ISVs would do things like what's known as cloud washing, where they would take their enterprise product, they'd install it on Amazon, they call it Cloud Edition, and then the savvy buyer would ask questions like, well, what's your upgrade cycle? And then they'd realize that in fact every customer has to be upgraded independently, and there's no multi-tenancy. And then they'd realize what that means is, well, how are you going to do your releases any faster than you used to do them? Because one of the key values of SaaS is the idea that they can do 4 to 6 times the number of releases in a year than their enterprise competitors. So it's a huge, compelling value point. And so the cloud washing is sort of failing, getting exposed for what it is. Buyers are getting savvy, and it's forcing multi-tenant architectures. It's forcing true components, and so that's sort of on the sort of product or architecture and go-to-market messaging side of things. The other interesting thing about the adoption is, and this is sort of pertinent to integration, which is our focus, and at this event we've been focused around best practices of integration. How's that landscape changing as cloud adoption continues? And in that context, it's a lot about centralization, where IT is starting to drive more of the process. So it's one thing when a VP of sales is buying SaaS application, CRM, and connecting it to finance. It's a whole other thing when a CIO is looking at a holistic business process that comprises, say, 5 applications, and then how does the integration work across all those things? Compounded on top of that is the idea that the data that moves through these processes is now transcending networks, data centers, and ownership boundaries. So the idea of governance and auditability and traceability becomes critical, in order for that to work. So this notion of centralization, this notion of savvy buyers, is changing the landscape of how SaaS is procured, implemented, supported, et cetera. But it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I mean, buyers are getting smarter. Hopefully, we're moving out of what Gartner calls the hype cycle into real, business value. So I think it's I think a tide's turning to the positive, and hopefully, knock on wood, at the same time, the economy is supportive of that transition.